Hello student. So let's see the bone humerus. In Ayurveda, humerus it is also called the Pragandasthi. So humerus it is the longest and the strongest bone of the upper limb, and the location of this bone that is present into that the arm region. So as it is the long bone, so it should be divided into three parts, that is the upper end, the middle shaft and the lower end. So let's see the details of the humerus. So here you can see that is the humerus, and that is the anterior view of the right humerus. Then this one, that is the posterior view of the right humerus. So let's see, that is the upper end of the humerus. So the upper end that consists of the head, then that is the neck, then the greater tubercle, this is the lesser tubercle, and the intertubercular sulcus. So this one. So let's start from the head. So the head, it is the smooth rounded and forms less than the upper half of the spear, and it is directed medially backwards and the upwards. Then it articulates with the glenoid cavity of the scapula to form the shoulder joint. Then the line separating the head from the rest of the upper end, it is called the anatomical neck. So this one. Then the lesser tubercle, it is the elevation. So here this one. So it is the elevation present on the anterior aspect of the upper end. Then the greater tubercle. So this one. So the greater tubercle, it is the elevation that forms the lateral part of the upper end, and its posterior aspect, it is marked by the three impressions. So here for the impressions are the upper, middle and the lower. Then the intertubercular sulcus. So this one, the intertubercular sulcus, it is called the bicipital groove also. So it is the intertubercular sulcus is separate the lesser tubercle medially from the anterior part of the greater tubercle. The sulcus has the medial margin and the lateral margin, or that is called the medial lip or the lateral lip, and that represents downward prolongation of the lesser and the greater tubercle. So this is the downward prolongation. Then the narrow line separating the upper end of the humerus from the shaft, it is called the surgical neck. So here, so this is the anatomical neck, this one, and this is the surgical neck. Let's see, that is the shaft of the humerus. So this one, from this region. So the shaft of the humerus, it is rounded in the upper half and the triangular into that the lower half. So here you can see it has three borders and the three surfaces. So the three borders are the anterior border, this one, then this is the medial border, and this is the lateral border. So let's see, that is the anterior border. So the anterior border, the upper 1/3 of the anterior border, it forms the lateral lip of the intertubercular sulcus. So this one. And its middle part, it forms the anterior margin of the deltoid tuberosity. So this one, here you can see, that is the deltoid tuberosity. And the lower half of the anterior border, it is smooth and the rounded. So this one. Then the lateral border. So this one. So it is lateral border, it is the prominent only in the lower end. So here. And it forms the lateral supracondylar ridge, this one. In upper part, it is barely traceable up to the posterior surface of the greater tubercle. So from this region it starts. And in the middle part, it is interrupted by the radial or the spiral groove. So in the posterior side, here you can see, that is the spiral groove, this one. Then the medial border, so this one. So the upper part of the medial border, it form the medial lip of the intertubercular sulcus. So from this, that is the medial border, it should be start. About its middle, it present a rough strip and continuous below with the medial supracondylar ridge. So this one. Then let's see, that is the surfaces of the humerus. So it consists of the anterolateral surface, so this one, then the anteromedial surface, and this is the posterior surface. So let's see the anterolateral surface. So this one, anterolateral surface, it lies in between the anterior and the lateral border. The upper half of this surface, it is covered by a deltoid tuberosity here, which is the V-shaped mark. Behind the deltoid tuberosity, the radial groove run downwards and forwards across the surface. So here you can see, that is the radial or the spiral groove which is present posteriorly. Then the anteromedial surface, so this one. So this surface, it lies between the anterior and the medial border. Its upper 1/3, it is narrow and forms the floor of the intertubercular sulcus. The nutrient foramen is seen on the surface near its middle here. Then the posterior surface, so this one. So the posterior surface, it lies between, that is the medial border and the lateral border. So this one, between this, that the surface. Its upper part, it is marked by the oblique ridge, and the middle 1/3, it is crossed by the radial groove. So here you can see. Then let's see, that is the lower end of the humerus. So this one, that is the lower end. So the lower end of the humerus, it forming that the condyles which is expanded from that the side to side. So this one. And it has the articular part and the non-articular part. So let's see, that is the articular part of the lower end of the humerus. So first, that is the capitulum and the trochlea. So the capitulum, first, it is rounded. Here you can see, that is the capitulum. So the capitulum, it is the rounded projection which articulates with the head of the radius. So this one, that is the capitulum. Then the trochlea, this one. So trochlea, it is the pulley shaped surface and it articulates with the trochlear notch of the ulna. The medial edge of the trochlea, it projects down 6 mm. So here you can see this one. So this part, it should be projects downwards 6 mm than the lateral edge, and because of this, it should be forming the formation of the carrying angle.
जो दुख भोगता है, एक ना एक दिन वो सुख भी भोगेगा, और जो सुख भोगता है, उसे एक ना एक दिन दुख भी भोगना पड़ेगा.
So the non-articular part, that consists of the medial supracondylar ridge. So here you can see, that is the lateral supracondylar ridge. So here, then the medial epicondyle, this one, then the lateral epicondyle, then the coronoid fossa. So here, then the radial fossa, this one, and that is the olecranon fossa, this one. So let's see, that is the medial epicondyle. So the medial epicondyle, it is the prominent bony projection. So this one here, present on the medial side of the lower end, and it is subcutaneous and easily felt on the medial side of the elbow. Then the lateral epicondyle, so this one. So it is smaller than the medial epicondyle and its anterolateral part has the muscular impression. Then the lateral supracondylar ridge, so this one. So it is the sharp lateral margin present just above to the lower end. So that is the lower end, and this is the sharp margin. It is called the lateral supracondylar ridge. Then the medial supracondylar ridge. So this one. So it is also the sharp ridge which is present above to that the medial margin or the medial lower end of the humerus. Then the coronoid fossa. So here you can see that is the coronoid fossa. So the coronoid fossa, it is a depression which present just above to the anterior aspect of the trochlea. So here that is the trochlea and this is the coronoid fossa. It accommodates the coronoid process of the ulna when the elbow it is flexed. Then the radial fossa. So this one. So it is the depression which is present just above to the anterior aspect of the capitulum. So here you can see that is the capitulum and this is the radial fossa. It is accommodates the head of the radius when elbow is flexed. Then the olecranon fossa. So here this one. So the olecranon fossa, it lies just above the posterior aspect of the trochlea. So here trochlea and just posterior to it and the posterior aspect of the humerus, that the olecranon fossa is present, and it accommodates the olecranon process of the ulna when elbow it is extended. Then let's see that is the site determination of the humerus. So in the site determination, the upper end it is rounded to form the head, and the lower end it is expanded from side to side and flattened from before to the backwards. Then head it is directed medially and the backwards, and the lesser tubercle. So here you can see that is the lesser tubercle from the front of the upper end, and it is limited laterally by the intertubercular sulcus, or that is called the bicipital groove. Then on the lower side anteriorly above to the trochlea, that is the coronoid fossa is present, and above to that the capitulum, that is the radial fossa is present, and posterior to it, that is the olecranon fossa is present. So this one. So it denotes the points included into that the site determination. Then let's see that is the ossification. So the ossification. So the humerus it is ossified, that is one primary center for the shaft and the 3 secondary centers for the upper end and the 4 secondary centers for the lower end. So shaft, that is the primary center, it should be appears in the 8th week of intrauterine life. Then the upper end it is for the head, the greater tubercle, and for the lesser tubercle. So the head that appears in the first year, then the greater tubercle it is 3rd year, and the lesser tubercle it is the 5th year, and joins with each other with the shaft at the 20th year. Then for the lower end, so lower end that is for the capitulum, then the medial part of the trochlea. So here that is the capitulum is present. So here that is the capitulum and the lateral flange of the trochlea. So this one. Then second one, that is the medial part of the trochlea. Third, that is the lateral epicondyle, and fourth, that is the medial epicondyle. So this part, that is the capitulum, it should be appeared in the 2nd year. The medial part of the trochlea it appear 10th year. The lateral epicondyle it appear the 12th year, and the medial epicondyle it appear the 6th year, and joins with the shaft at means that is the capitulum, trochlea, and the lateral epicondyle it joins with the shaft at the 16th to 17th year, and the medial epicondyle it joins with the shaft at the age of the 18th year. Then let's see that is the muscle attachment of the humerus. So let's see that is the muscle attachment. So before starting the muscle attachment, that is the red color it denotes that is the origin of the muscle, and the blue color that denotes the insertion of the muscle. So first, that is the subscapularis. So this one. So it is inserted on the lesser tubercle of the humerus. Then on the posterior aspect, so here that is the insertion of the three muscles are present. So in the uppermost impression of the greater tubercle, the insertion of the supraspinatus muscle. Then the infraspinatus muscle, it is inserted on the middle impression of the greater tubercle, and the teres minor, it is inserted on the lowermost impression of the greater tubercle. Then on the anterior aspect, the pectoralis major, it is inserted on the lateral lip of the bicipital groove. So here, then on the floor of the bicipital groove, there is the insertion of the latissimus dorsi, and on the medial lip of the bicipital groove, that is the teres major muscle, it should be inserted. So here, then on the deltoid tuberosity, the deltoid muscle, it should be inserted. Then the coracobrachialis. So here, the coracobrachialis, it is inserted into the rough area of on the middle of the medial border. Then the brachialis. So the origin of the brachialis from the lower half of the anteromedial and the anterolateral surface of the shaft of the humerus. Then brachioradialis. So this one. So it is originate from the upper 2/3 of the lateral supracondylar ridge. This one. Then the origin of the extensor carpi radialis longus. So this one. So it arises from the lower 1/3 of the lateral supracondylar ridge. Then the pronator teres. So this one. So it is arises from the lower 1/3 of the medial supracondylar ridge. Then the superficial flexure muscle. So here, that is called the common flexure origin. It is from the anterior aspect of medial supracondylar ridge. Then the superficial extensor origin, that is also called the common extensor origin. So it is from the lateral epicondyle. Then the anconeus. So here, that is the anconeus. It is arises from the posterior surface of the lateral epicondyle of the humerus. Then the lateral head of the triceps. So this one. So it arises from the oblique ridge on the upper part of the posterior surface above the radial groove. While that is the medial head of the tricep, it arises from the posterior surface below to that the radial groove. So here you can see spiral groove or the radial groove. So upper side, the lateral head of the tricep, and the lower side, that is the medial head of the tricep. Then the capsular ligament, so of the shoulder joint. So here, that is this one. So it is attached to that the anatomical neck except the medial side. Then the capsular ligament of the elbow joint. So this one. So it is attached to the lower end along the line reaches to the upper limit of the radial and the coronoid fossa. So this one. Then the three nerves, they are directly related with the humerus. So here in this diagram you can see that is. So the axillary nerve, so here you can see, which is present the cervical neck, the radial nerve which is present at the radial groove, and the ulnar nerve which is present at the medial epicondyle. So if this side the injury should be occur, so these nerve, they should be liable to that the injury. So the first clinical or the applied point, that is fracture. So the common fracture site of the humerus, they are here, that is in the cervical neck. Second one, that is in the shaft, and the third one, that is the supracondylar region. So here, and the supracondylar fracture that is very much common into that the young age. So here in this diagram you can see that is the supracondylar fracture. So it is produced by fall on the outstretched hand, and the lower fragment, so this one, mostly displays backwards so that elbow is unduly prominent as the dislocation of the elbow joint, and the three bony points of the elbow form the unequilateral triangle, and this fracture may causes the injury to that the median nerve. Then the next is that is the dislocation. So here you can see that is the head of the humerus, and that is the glenoid cavity. So the head of the humerus, it is commonly dislocated inferiorly, as the side of the humerus, head of the humerus, it is larger than the glenoid cavity. Then the third clinical point. So the third point, the humerus has poor blood supply at the junction of upper and the middle third, and the fracture at this side shows the delayed union or the non-union, that is due to the poor blood supply to that the junction. So these are the clinical points related with the humerus.